Welcome everyone to the fun world of functions. Today we're going to start some basic function vocabulary that's going to come into play over and over again over the next few months as we investigate different types of functions in Algebra 2. But before we get into a function, we have to know what a relation is. And all that a relation is it shows a relationship between two things. Usually in math, a relation is represented by an ordered pair, x comma y, like you would graph on the coordinate plane. Now, in terms of function vocabulary, these x's and y's also have other names. The x is also known as the domain of the function, and the y value is also known as the range of the function. And we'll also sometimes talk in terms of a function, the x being the input, or the number you are plugging into the equation or the function, and the y is the output. What you get is the answer when you plug in a certain number for x. Now for the all-important word function. A function is a special type of relationship where each x value has one y value. Or in other words, when you input a number in for x, you're only going to get one y value or one output out of the equation. I've generated a couple of relationships here, and we're going to investigate whether they are functions or not. So the first equation that I have, x plus y equals 16, I've made a t-chart from -4 to +4. You should recognize either from the equation or from the t-chart that that is making a line. And notice when I plug in a number for x, like if I plug in 5, and solve for y, I'm only going to get one answer for y. So when x is 5, y is 11. 1x gives me 1y. So this is a function. Whereas my other relationship, x squared plus y squared equals 16, hopefully you recognize that as being the equation of a circle. Now, notice in my t-chart, when I plugged in x equals 3, and I solve this for y, it's going to be 9 plus y squared equals 16. Subtract 9 from both sides. I get y squared equals 7. And when I take the square root, I'm going to end up with y equals a positive and a negative radical 7. So these x values, 3 actually has two y values, a positive and a negative radical 7. The x value of 1 has two y values, positive radical 15 and negative radical 15. So a circle, and this equation is not a function because some x values have more than one y value associated with them. Now hopefully you're thinking, boy, I don't want to have to make a t-chart for every single equation and see if I have x values with multiple y values. So a great way to be able to tell whether an equation is a function or not without having to look at the t-chart is by just looking at its graph. A graph is a function if it passes what we call the vertical line test. I've given us 5 equations down below, and I'm going to make a quick graph of these on the graphing calculator and show you how the vertical line test works. So I'm actually going to start with the middle equation, y equals -3x plus 4. Here it is on the calculator. There's our line, crosses the y-axis at positive 4 and has a slope of down 3 over 1. Now what the vertical line test says is that if I can draw any vertical line on my graph and it only hits the graph one time, it has to be a function. So in this case, no matter where I draw my blue lines, my blue vertical lines, I only hit the graph once. I hit it once. I hit it once. If I go to x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, at x equals 4, I only get one y value out. It's like negative 8. So this line, y equals negative 3x plus 4, is a function. There's my abbreviation for function. Let's go over to the right, do the parabola next. Y equals x squared plus 4x minus 5. Here's the graph, and notice when I start drawing vertical lines, hit it once. 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 Each x value is associated with one y value. So a parabola is a function. Next, we'll graph y equals plus or minus square root of 2x minus 5. There's our positive square root, our negative square root. When we graph, we get a sideways parabola. So now when I do my vertical line test, like at x equals 4, I hit my graph in two locations. Looks like positive 4, positive 2, and positive 4, negative 2. So x value of 4 has two different y values, so this is not a function. The graph of y equals 5 is a horizontal line, so no matter where I put in a vertical line, I'm only hitting my graph one time. So a horizontal line is indeed a function. But the equation x equals negative 2 makes a vertical line where all the x's are negative 2, and you're going to have multiple y values like negative 2 comma 0, negative 2 comma 1, negative 2 comma 4, negative 2 comma 100. You're going to have multiple y values for the same x values. So a vertical line is not a function because a vertical line will hit it an infinite amount of times.